On this episode of RCKicks, something a little bit different. We're talking about the RCKicks Studio 2.0, how progress is going on that project, and a little bit more about the channel. So something a little bit different for you, so stay tuned. Hi and welcome to RCKicks. On today's show, where we're talking about the RCKicks 2.0 studio progress, and as well as a few other bits and pieces about the channel. So if you've been watching for a while, what you see behind me is what you've been looking at for the best part of 2 years. I started the channel back in February 2019, I think it was. And it was in this room right from the beginning. It did look very different. If you actually go back and watch some of the very early videos, they're awful, but the layout was slightly different. I didn't have the cool wall then that you see behind me. The camera was actually over this side and all the table was turned the other way, and this side of the studio was in the center. I soon realized later on that that didn't really utilize the small space that I had, and my collection got a little bit bigger than I anticipated. Don't know how that happens. Funny that. And I needed a better way to store everything, and that's where the cool wall came up. And that was the best way that I could find to store all the cars in this tiny little room. But fast forward to now, and I'm still running out of space. Also, there's a lot of things I learned when I set up this studio that I would have done differently. One of the big things is that I've drilled 100 holes in this wall, and when I moved to Studio 2.0, guess who's got to fill 100 holes, sand them, and repaint this wall? Yeah, so that's the first thing I learned, is don't alter the room too much. So what I've decided to do on the next studio, not only is it larger, we're using a much bigger room in the house than this little tiny studio, it's probably about 3 times bigger, is I wanted to actually put in a set that's freestanding. What that means is it's not bolted to any of the walls or anything like that, for a few reasons. One, it means you're not damaging the actual room itself, and it's easy to turn it back into what it was. Two, one thing I really wanted to do was add lights to the cool wall. The problem is, to run lights to all these cars, you're going to see all the cables, unless I bury all the cables in the wall. Obviously, I am not going to do that. So if I'd have had a freestanding wall with a gap behind it, I could run the wires really easily and illuminate the backs of the cars from the top and things like that. So that's one of the big things that I'm going to do on the new studio, is I'm going to be able to run lots more lights, and all the cabling will run down the backs, not actually attached to the walls. So that was the concept from that point of view. Another thing that I've actually found over the last 2 years of doing this is the hardest thing for me is lighting, getting your lighting right. Now I've got a few colors going on, but that's about as far as I got. So I want to try and improve the lighting. There's actually quite a lot of lighting going on to try and give you the best image quality we can without casting too many shadows and things like that. But there is a real art to lighting. So that was another side of it that I wanted to take into account when designing the next studio. So let's cut to how the current studio is after 2 days of being excruciatingly busy, and I'll talk you around it so you can get an idea of what it's like. So the basic render you see here is one I knocked together myself. Now there's limitations to this room, as the roof cuts into one corner of the room, so that kind of dictated one side and how much I could use that space. I decided that I needed extra storage, but I didn't want it visible in the studio, so it's actually behind the studio. So this is what it looked like after I bought the racking. I needed lots of storage. One thing I really liked about this racking is when you place a car on it, it won't give you flat spots on the tyres. So now you're looking at a render that's a lot better than mine. This is from Jamie Ellis, who is a genius when it comes to 3D renders. Well, it should be, that's what he does. He's a director of Spiral Creative. As you can see, he does amazing work, and that's pretty much exactly what I'm working towards. So I placed an order for all the back section that you can see in the render, and it arrived yesterday. So I spent the last 2 days unpacking all the IKEA furniture. So I started with the low section that would be under the TV. I had 2 of them. I probably will put doors on these, as when you have the counter in the middle, you probably won't see these, so I can change them to storage, as I think that'll be more efficient. Now all these are going to be bolted together, and there's going to be a gap behind them, so I can run all the wiring up behind all the shelving. The plan is to put lighting above every single car. Now I've fitted the second section, and we've got the turn. Now the return section, you can see, will be the RCKicks logo. I'm going to paint it white inside, we'll put LEDs, and then hopefully I'll print and stretch the logo over the whole carcass. Now it's coming together, and I've started to put in a few cars just as a tester, and I like what I see. There's a lot of lighting that's got to go in here. One thing I changed that's different from the original drawing is I put some doors at both ends because I want to keep more storage. I think storage is the key for this. I've got the racking that's out of sight, but also all my tools and my paints and things like that. I really wanted to take that into account on this studio. Now, one thing you never get to see in an IKEA advert is what you do with the 4,000 tons of cardboard. Well, you spend an hour ripping it into small pieces so you can put it into your tiny little bin to have it taken away. Now I've masked on the floor the actual layout of where I want my desk to go and the size of it. Then what I'll do is I'll measure that up and see if I can match it up to some cabinets in IKEA. It took 2 days to put it all together. Yeah, it did take quite a while, but I think it's going to work quite well. I tipped the shelves forwards to show more of the car on the camera, so if you look carefully you'll see most of these shelves are tilted towards you. Now these racks worked out brilliantly, and you can actually store quite a lot of cars on them. I will be using the second rack that you see here with the plastic containers, will also have cars on it. Now I can gain access to all my storage from this side, which is great because you can't see it from the studio itself. So as I buy and sell cars, I can keep the boxes here. I still need to sort it all out and optimize it, but I think the design is going to work really well. As you can see, we still have quite a way to go, but it's starting to take shape and also starting to look like how the renders are. So the next thing is I need to order the center area, but I wanted to get the back done so that I can measure up exactly the size of the table that I'm going to put in, because I wanted to keep enough room and I wasn't exactly sure. I measured up as much as I could, and the renders that you are looking at are to scale, but until you actually get it all in place, you're never going to get the fine detail, and I wanted to keep a reasonable gap around the center table. So the plan now is to measure up like I did on the floor, then go and look at what kind of cabinets I can get, and then how I'm going to make a table. I actually made this one, but I'm not going to use this. I'm actually going to use a different one. It's going to be inbuilt storage, because that's another thing that I learned quite a lot. Storage is everything, and I want the new studio to look clean, neat and tidy, whereas this one started to fill up with bits of rubbish and things like that. So I wanted to make sure I had loads of storage. So that's the next thing. So the center cabinets, I'll order those in the next couple of weeks, and then that will come. After that, it will be the back section. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with that center section, whether it's going to be a TV or whether it's going to be a few cars or just a big logo. I honestly don't know. I'm still umming and ahhing about whether to do the big logo on the wall. I tell you what, I'll put up a couple of pictures here. Comment below which one you think is the best. Also, I'm definitely going to do the upright in the corner for the RCKicks logo. I like that. It's a bit of a separator as well. So that's all coming. And then hopefully once that's done and the lighting's in and the ceiling lighting's in, we will transition from this studio to that one. So it's going to be a while, and there's no massive rush to get out of this studio. So I want to carry on producing RC content for you guys and girls while I'm doing that in the background, but obviously that takes a lot of money and a lot of time to get that studio. But we've got to keep moving forward, and I want to progress, and I want to keep giving better quality videos and content. So there we go, there's lots to come. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you'd like to see behind the scenes content like this, head over to the RCKicks Patreon page. See you soon, bye bye.